You're gonna die. Sorry for the spoilers there, but we kind of gotta get that out of the way before we get into this. Themes of death and mortality are nothing new to film and art at large. In fact, I'd go as far as to say is that the oldest, if not primary, inspiration behind most facets of expression, being ever present in works even if unbeknown to the people who've created them. However, there is one exploration and portrayal of death in particular that has always resonated with and fascinated me, that being the bureaucracy of death. This is a vague and rather not clear turn that I've kind of landed on for the general themes and imagery. I'm not really sure what I'm going for this, or there's no real structure or plan and kind of theory and analysis, just some films and ideas that I really kind of just want to talk about. There'll definitely be better examples and articulations of what I could say here for other people to do, but let's give it a go. So
now, sit back, relax, and enjoy
the bureaucracy of
death.
We all have our own beliefs of what lies after death.
Laffy, listen to me, brother. Gates, lad.
But amongst films of this nature, instead of the standard negative and horrifying imagery of passing over, we see more ambivalent and unassuming depictions. Often these are mundane, office-like interpretations of death, incorporating and mirroring imagery of everyday bureaucratic jobs. Death is also shown to be unequivocally not the end, with there being layers upon layers of bureaucratic procedure ahead that have always been holding up the mortal world. As a fan of bureaucracy, yes, I've actually just said that I am not sad, I've always found this to be a fascinating concept and contrast. Perhaps as we humans cannot comprehend our own unknowable fate, here we have to manifest a reality based on all we know in life. As is the case for many, life consists of monotonous tasks and downright suffering, so what else can we picture for ourselves beyond that? As well as this, it also serves to normalise death itself as a very normal extension of life, reducing its stigma and showing it to be as integral as any other social service. Many other films employ this sort of imagery to highlight the misery of mundane living in the world, so I find it extremely interesting to see it used for that of a world that is meant to be beyond and in most cases superior to our own. I want to highlight the Japanese film Afterlife. NANI?! The film centres around office workers who process recently deceased people, eventually having them select one memory of their life to go on and remember forever, which they will then capture in the form of a film. Here we are given no visual indication that this office setting has anything to do with death, only subtle hints in the dialogue, which even then are hidden under the unassuming and pleasant exchanges of the characters. Once again, this serves to destigmatise death as something that isn't to be feared, and by depicting death as bureaucratic and dull, it also allows the audience to ask themselves questions like, well, what did we wait for? Why not live to the fullest now? Is there not enough beauty in the natural rather than the supernatural? I think that bureaucracy and death are far more intertwined than people realise. In many Western environments, life consists primarily of ignoring death, pushing it to the fringes of our minds until absolutely necessary. Entire industries have arisen to make our experiences of death be as sanitised and manageable as possible, to take the death out of dying. You could even make the argument, I say you, but I mean me, like right now, that religious frameworks are merely an advanced spiritual form of bureaucratic procedure, albeit with nicer uniforms. You know, meet these standards and guidelines in order to qualify for the most appropriate afterlife. Think of the layers upon layers of bureaucracy that surround death, the trials and pain of insurance, wills, funerals, burial, memorials, dishing out of belongings, all the burden of the living that the dead get to leave behind. I love that in these films, bureaucracy is for once thrust upon the hands of the deceased. The drive for this video essentially came from watching my favourite non-dinosaur having film of all time, A Matter of Life and Death. From 1946, it showcases a World War II pilot who was meant to die in a plane crash but was inexplicably missed by the angel meant to collect them, and then subsequently he falls in love with the woman who he was last on the phone to. When I first saw this film just on a tablet at 2 AM on ITVX in a hotel room, I felt so seen in a film in a way I'd never felt before. Things I'd always thought growing up about life and ideas were articulated by a film 80 years before now. It's incredible. It felt so ahead of its time. I'm rambling now. Yeah. I believe the very essence and purpose of these films is to invigorate our own relationship with our current mortal lives. Many films here use colour to the advantage here from both ends of expression. In films such as Matter of Life and Death and Wings of Desire, we see the angelic worlds and perspective in the cold black and white, as well as utilising rigid and angular brutalist architecture. Meanwhile, the mortal world is one that is free, flowing and vibrant.
when he's starved for Technicolor up there.
This contrasts with other famous uses of colour shifts such as The Wizard of Oz, where the land of fantasy is revered in beautiful technicolor and the real world is dull and monotonous and sepia. However, in other instances, we also see the bureaucratic afterlife depicted with far more vibrance and personality than the mortal world. With examples such as this, we almost get a celebration of death as a continuation of life, beyond what we could possibly comprehend. I think particularly with Beetlejuice, as is Tim Burton, mundane Americana and suburbia are presented as the true purgatory, with the Maitlands being confined to their rather bland and simple attire, whereas the afterlife is presented as bold and interesting and ironically full of life. Examples such as this encourage us to bring more of death into our lives, not to live in the dull now when it may be all we ever know. I really want to highlight the use of a guardian angel / personification of death figure that we often see in these films. This figure serves neither as a friend nor foe, merely as a worker conducting business. Death to them is objective and rigid, to us life is free. Perhaps it is because of this that a theme emerges with these figures, in that they are always enamoured with mortal life as something unattainable that they both yearn for and cannot fathom. I want to highlight Meet Joe Black, where death is personified through the body and accents of Brad Pitt.
Take me to that mix, please.
Trust me, that makes sense if you've seen it. Joe Black is death incarnate, having come down to take Anthony Hopkins' character, successful businessman, over to the next place, with his death already having been predetermined for this time. He's presented as naive and cold, profound but yet empty. Often we as people crave immortality, but when confronted with it through these characters, we get a lens by which to observe our own lives and wonder, what if someone couldn't have this? Would we rather live like them? Does the finality of death give meaning to our existence? Importantly, these characters are always confused and enamoured by love. Love is the very essence of living and life, inherent to mortality and forever elusive to those immortal. Throughout all these films, the bureaucratic systems are portrayed as strict and unwavering, yet always, the thing that manages to break through the rigid bureaucratic systems is love. Every single time, love is the ultimate exception.
The case is not so simple.
No?
No. He's fallen in love.
Ah. Oh.
It complicates things.
Through love, Joe Black understands what it is to be human and is almost swayed into going against all he's ever known. People in Afterlife, when they have to pick one moment to remember their entire life, what do they pick? They all choose love. Only through love, in Wings of Desire, do they see the true essence of what it is to live and even abandon millennia of immortality for a fleeting moment of mortality just for love. And then Matter of Life and Death, just watch Matter of Life and Death. Ultimately, it is through the bureaucracy of death that we get to fully understand and appreciate the value of a loving life.
Yes, Mr. Fowler, nothing is stronger than the law in the universe, but on Earth, nothing is stronger than love.
Now, I haven't went through with this just to stat pad my Letterboxd, hint hint, but more just to explore something that I've always felt when watching films like this growing up but never been able to really articulate, so I hope in some sort of way I've managed to do that or get something across here. But yeah, I don't know, I've just been like writing and editing this in between chances I get between work, so if I actually do publish this anywhere and you're still here watching, thank you, I guess. I'm not used to this, so yeah. So after finishing this, I've also kind of just realised that like all of what I've said kind of applies to RIPD, so yeah. Ta-ra.